Hey everyone, welcome to Bourbon and Data Breaches, where we cover one of our favorite bourbons and the top 5 most interesting and exciting data breaches for this last week. To go ahead and introduce the crew, I'm Steve.
I'm Michael.
Brandon.
I'm Nikki.
Okay, great. So to kick off, let's start with the bourbon. And with bourbon, we are going to be starting with the Ben Millum. So I've got it. Brandon's got it. Let me pin Brandon there. There we go. So Ben Millum. Ben Millum is an interesting bourbon. It's a single barrel straight bourbon whiskey. However, I've got their website pulled up here. So let me actually go straight to their site. So it's an interesting bourbon that hails from Blanco, Texas. Blanco, if some people don't know Blanco is also the home of what is Hill Country? No, not Real Ale. There we go. Blanco is the home of Real Ale, so fairly well-known brewery out of Blanco, Texas. And then we've got Ben Millum just across the street. I've never been. Has anyone been to the Real Ale or Millum and Green Distillery?
I don't think I've been to Blanco.
Is it Blanco or Blanco?
It's probably Blanco.
It's Texas.
Maybe ignorant on the factors, but what I thought there were very specific legal definitions of what constitutes a bourbon and what doesn't. Is it possible?
Bourbon, yes, there are rules. Bourbon has to be, 70% corn and aged in new charred oak barrels for at least 6 months. Is that right, Brandon?
I think it's 51% corn, but yes, the rest is right.
Got it. So mostly corn. And so what makes Millum and Green interesting is the way that they go about producing their bourbon. So I've got their website up here. So they've got Texas on the bottle a lot. They've got Texas, Freedom. They've got more Texas. They've got the state of Texas right there. But it looks like the distillation's actually from Tennessee. So they are one of these producers that gets their original product from someone in Tennessee, a bulk producer, but it's aged and bottled in Blanco, Texas. So we're going to do a tasting. Okay, so we've got the Ben Millum straight bourbon whiskey, single barrel. Brandon, what are you getting on the nose?
On the nose?
On the nose.
Oh, mostly freshly cut dry grass.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I like it.
It smells sweet. It smells a little caramely. Speaking of color, so we did the Mitcher's bourbon last week. This is a little bit lighter. This is a little bit more of a caramel color, not as much of a deep amber. So this is sort of a golden, which is really pretty. So I'm getting a lot of spice on this. Maybe a little bit of cinnamon. Do you get cinnamon on this, Brandon?
I can see that.
So it's definitely smooth. They like to market it as a true sipping bourbon or a true sipping whiskey, and I would agree with that. I wouldn't want to dilute this or mix this with anything. One of the reasons for that is the price tag. At least here in Austin, I got this for right around $50, which is on the higher end of what I like to go for a sipping bourbon. Maybe if you're lucky and you're not in a major city, you can get it for 38 to 40. But certainly, near the higher ends, smooth, single flavor, lasting aftertaste as well. What about you, Brandon? Anything to add to that?
Oh no, it's real drinkable. I do like my bourbon with a little bit of water. I don't think it's that egregious of a sin, but it's real smooth. You could drink this all night.
Yeah, I'm doing a single large ice cube. It will slowly melt, and I kind of enjoy that. Get a little bit of water into it, let it open up gradually over the course of a drink. So, Ben Milam, cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
So, what is everyone else drinking? So, Brandon and I have the Ben Milam single barrel, and I think Mike.
This is HEB brand Diet Dr. B. This is what I normally mix with my lower shelf whiskeys. You're not going to believe this. Also freshly cut grass.
There you go. Maybe also produced in Blanco, Texas.
It may be. Don't we have work to do or something? Do we have breaches, Nikki?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. With that non sequitur, let's jump into the breaches.
I'm gonna share my screen so you guys can see what I see, the good stuff. The first breach that we'll be covering is coming out of ZDNet, and it is headlined, Italian beverage vendor Campari knocked offline after ransomware attack.
I hate to see it.
Now, the Campari Group, they own also Cinzano, Appleton. What they don't mention in the article is that they actually own Aperol. You guys ever have Aperol spritzers? Fantastic.
I mean, if you're asking me, I'm thinking gin and vermouth.
That doesn't sound good at all.
Gin, vermouth, and Campari? It's like the most classic drink of all time, besides the martini.
So it's obviously bad that a hacker was able to hold Campari for ransom. But what I'm finding interesting, it sounds like this was a single hacker, not a ransomware gang. Is that right?
Yeah, one was listed, Pancake 3. Or the name is PANCA3.
That's just Pancake.
Okay, Pancake.
That's Pancake in hacker speak.
The first.
The first and only. So, but it's weird, right? Because usually ransomware is done by a gang, right? It's a group of hackers that all get together, they deploy the same ransomware, and then they all go about, infecting people. It's weird for ransomware to be one hacker. I don't think we've had a story where it's been one hacker before.
Maybe Pancake is a group? Because it just said hacker Pancake.
What I've never heard. No, that means it's a hacker. So it sounds like one hacker has some ransomware. I'd be interested to know what variety of ransomware it was, and if it was ransomware as a service. So these days you can just get ransomware as COTS, as commercial off-the-shelf software. So you can pay to own some ransomware, and then you can break in somewhere and deploy it. And it sounds like this hacker just had some ransomware, and they broke in somewhere, and then they held Campari up. Campari seems like a weird target, though. What do you guys think? Like, is this personally motivated? Are they Italian? Maybe. Why Campari of all businesses?
I don't know. It's it might have been just low-hanging fruit for them. It doesn't seem super high-tech. In other words, if Campari follows that same logic, they don't spend a ton on security. They're not hardened. They're not resilient. That seems like kind of an easy target to me. At the same time, they're a multi-million-dollar business. Clearly, been drinking Campari since forever.
With this particular one, it's $15 million to a company that is possibly making hundreds of million dollars a year. Do you think that he'll get it? And is there any other, ransomware situation that comes to mind that you think he may just get it? They may just pay it and just say, okay, give us all of our control back. And then
any municipality comes immediately to mind. Big cities.
Yeah, cities have paid that much. The thing about ransomware is if you pay the ransom, no one knows, and so no one knows the biggest ransomware payoff unless you're looking at Bitcoin transactions and just assuming any Bitcoin transactions are ransomware payoff. But yeah, there could have been to date $1 billion ransomware payoff. We just would never know. It depends on what they got, how much they got, and what is that worth. And I think if they got Matthew McConaughey's contract, that's bad, but that's not $15 million bad. If they got like the all the PII and health records of all the employees and the secret formula to Campari, then maybe,
Yeah, but the point here is that most people, I think, kind of outside the industry assume that breaches have only to do with stealing secret data. I think a lot of companies that don't take security seriously make the same assumption, as in we don't have a secret formula for Campari, so you can hack us all you want. But a lot of it is about regular business operations. If you can get in, lock everybody out of email, you're not doing business until you actually pay the ransom. Yeah. And so, security is more about is more than just stealing secret data. This is about actual business operations and even supply chain.
I think this is a low risk because they are a commercial packaged goods. And unless you have, industrial controls on the same network as whoever's handling contracts for Matthew McConaughey, you don't run a big risk of your business shutting down. And so I would expect a low likelihood of payment. But there's GDPR violations, right? And if Campari was found to be negligent, they could end up being fined, and the GDPR violations could be huge. Could be 3% of their annual revenue. So there's a chance that hackers got enough that if they don't pay the ransom, they'll pay more in fines.
Their annual revenue for 2017 was 1.8 billion, so that would be 54 million in fines.
There you go. So this is one definitely to watch to see if they actually pay the fine. We'll have to do an update on this one if we hear anything in the next few months.
Good idea.
All right, Nikki, number two.
Number two data breach we'll be covering today will be coming out of IT Pro, and that is kind of a sad one. It is Mattel, toy maker, admits it was hit by a ransomware attack. Top line notes, your favorites, Barbie, I don't know if it's your favorite specifically, but Barbie, Fisher-Price, Hot Wheels, these guys are giants. They're monsters. They've been making toys for decades and they've been really good at it. But they were infiltrated, they were hacked, and some assumptions as of now, they haven't figured out what the ransomware was that halted all operations, but there had been mention of it's called TrickBot malware. This happened back in July 28th, so it's been 3 months since this even happened. Mattel had basically, it's a toy maker. They're not handling all your information. They're not doing that much. But having said that, they wanted to make sure that everyone knew that no material impact to operations or financial condition had occurred. But there was really no easing the customer's mind, right? Like if people are buying anything online or there's no trails, there's nothing else that additional was said. So I guess a good question in this one would be like, when a hack of this scale happens, but it's kind of an odd industry, toy making, they're not collecting customer information or anything like that, but they are selling to a lot of people. What dangers loom here in terms of them having all of their, servers breach their computers, and just kind of any inkling of danger happening by hackers' hands?
Same as last time. I mean, well, first, there's obviously business function. So can you continue to make and deliver products? Second, there's something Steve touched on last time, which is, it's more concerning if you work for Mattel, and Mattel has, for example, your social security number because you're an employee of the company. And then, I would worry about supply chain risk, meaning if someone shares a direct network connection or is opening emails, from Mattel that look legit and don't necessarily have to be phishing emails, there's obviously a risk there involved in all the other companies that do business with them.
I think one thing that I don't know, does Mattel sell their toys online? Because if they've gotten into the world of e-commerce, that breaks everything wide open. If they purely manufacture, there's a limited risk, right? Like Campari manufactures. But Mattel, I go to Mattel.com. If I can buy a toy, then it's the same thing as if Target was breached, which Target was breached, right? Once a hacker's in, you don't know what they've touched. You don't know if they're doing a keylogger, scraping credit card information, financial information, personal information. So there's a lot of unknowns here. One thing that I will note, I think ransomware is the biggest game in town, the best way to make money if you're hacking. Hacking's all about monetizing. And if you can break in and ransom someone, people pay.
Ready for number 3?
Yep.
Number 3 on the data breach list is, the headline reads, Capcom hacked. I almost mixed that up. Capcom hacked. Resident Evil game developer discloses cyber attack. And essentially the big takeaway that they wanted from this article was that, sure, no customer data was, put on the forefront and nobody can tell right now. But having said that, your IP, your trade secrets, any internal communications that you have within the company could be at stake, meaning you guys are not in a good spot right now. Like, how can you kind of position yourself in the at least the press that, oh, it's okay because no customer data is out there? But what's your take on it?
Now all the hackers are going to know how to Hadouken. That's not good.
When were they infected? Do we know?
The short press release was given out last Monday, so it's been like a week.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't say like initially it happened in certain time of year, but
the reason they're saying it now is because eGregor, when you don't pay, they publish your name on their website. And so they were playing the game of, okay, when are people going to figure out that we've been hacked? And then they saw, okay, eGregor will publish if we don't pay and such and such. So we know they haven't paid, right? Or else eGregor wouldn't have announced it. So maybe they will pay now. But yeah, I mean, this is bad. If they start releasing game source code, you're going to see 100 Street Fighter clones that are out there.
Okay, you want to get sadder?
Yeah. Depress us, Nikki.
So number 4 is going to be coming out of SiliconANGLE. And we are marching into that dystopian future where more often than not, there are going to be billions of stolen credentials from defunct breach index sites leaked online. Then this basically a total of 50 gigabytes and 13 billion records from 23,618 databases were leaked, according to TechNadu. Spammers and credential stuffing hackers have already started using the databases and the email addresses in cybercrime campaigns. Reading through this article, I had no idea what that meant. What does that mean? What does that look like if, 50 gigabytes is released into the wild? for me, I'm like, yeah, that's a lot. I don't know what that looks like. Can you guys kind of explain a little bit what is going on there?
Sure. So we have all of that data, and in our system, we can't have duplicates. So we've added in sit 0 day and all of the data, and we added very few new records. So the bad news is it just got way easier for hackers to get 13 billion new credentials. The good news is if you were in the business of getting credentials, you already have all those records. So it's very little new information that's been released. So, one of the most interesting things from sit 0 day is that they were able to attribute previously known records to what sites those came from. So the biggest benefit, the biggest benefit to us from seeing the sit 0 day records was not the records themselves, which were fairly small in terms of new records, but being able to see what sites hackers have claimed to have broken into. So we added maybe a few 100 million new credentials to our system, but we added thousands of new data breaches to our system from those hacker claims of sites they've broken into. So it's a weird situation. Every now and then you're going to hear about a huge data breach or data dump or data leak or a data collection like this. But in actuality, very few new records were released. But if you were starting from scratch, right? If you were a college kid that was bored and trying to do some credential stuffing, like they just made it infinitely easier for you to break into websites. Let's do number 5.
Mambo number 5. Let's move on to the 5th data breach that we have on deck while I try to share my screen. And that is going to be, I feel like we've covered this last week, but this might be another instance. This is coming out of the Morning Tick. And the headline reads, U.S. private prison operator comes clean about ransomware attack in August. So right after Mattel got hacked, these guys did, nobody said anything until now, but GEO Group, which owns a ton of interest, I guess you want to call that, in private prisons around the world. They were hit with ransomware August 19th. The hackers had leaked personal data from inmates, and the data was never recollected. But again, GEO Group had mentioned that they fixed it. It's all good. But this is kind of tough because how do you get the resolution when the victims are prisoners? This isn't like Finland. This isn't Norway. They don't have internet in all facilities, I'm going to guess. It's been a long time since I've been in prison. Allegedly. With the numbers possibly being in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, what is at stake here?
So a few questions on this one. One is which ransomware did it? 2 is it viable to commit identity theft against someone in prison? Because wouldn't that immediately tip them off that you should also be in prison? I don't know. That seems weird because the big concern about this information is identity theft. But you're not going to steal someone that has a prison record or is actively in prison, you're not gonna steal their identity. That seems weird.
No, I mean, you can still open an account as them. It seems especially egregious to me to commit, not to protect the data of folks that are in the system, and
they can't do anything about it. They can't even check.
Yet aren't able to redress and don't have access to even the same basic tools that regularly have to redress it.
But what, you're right. So the recourse level is low, but the utility level is, I would argue, also low, because what can you really do with, like, you're not going to get a loan. No one's going to loan you money. You're just in prison, or you're currently in prison. It's not like prisoners can get loans.
Sure, but I mean, the credit card market, the fake credit card market is already flush. But this, that's what I would do now.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we have many comments on the prison thing. That sucks. I hope they fix it. And also, I don't know. If I was going to try to steal someone's identity, I probably wouldn't go after a prisoner.
I know they seem like a very vulnerable population, I think, is what makes this more egregious. And even more so than Mattel or Campari, I think you have a responsibility to that data, a greater responsibility to that data.
Well, I agree there's responsibility, but in terms of utility, if you're a hacker out there listening or watching and you know how to make use of prisoner data, please write in and let us know the utility of prisoner data. All right. Final thoughts?
Nope. If you want your bourbon featured, or you don't want us to name your CDN as responsible for the YouTube outage, please make checks payable to HackNotice Incorporated and send them to the address in the link below. We
are not holding anyone for ransom, although we do enjoy bourbon. And Brandon had a little note. The Ben Milam, they won an award. What did they win, Brandon?
San Francisco World Spirits Competition 2018, double gold.
Look at that. If you also have a double gold bourbon that you'd like to have featured on this podcast or videocast, then you can mail it to me.
Double gold sounds good. Is that top prize? I don't know anything about bourbon. Is there like a platinum?
Yeah, that's true. Double gold could be the starting.
I'm saying it's on first impression. If you told me you won double gold at anything, I would assume that was pretty good, but I just don't know what.
It goes from double gold to octuplet gold, and then platinum, diamond, and then just for some reason silver at the top.
In summary, I would say that little pancake is allegedly the double gold of hackers.
That's my new rapper name. I'm gonna be a little pancake. Be like Lil Dicky, but only about food.
Night, everybody.
So this has been an episode of Bourbon and Breaches. If you enjoyed this content, please write, like, subscribe, follow, tweet, retweet, tick, and talk. What else am I supposed to say? What's the needy stuff we're supposed to say, Nikki?
Follow and subscribe.
Follow, subscribe. If you enjoyed this, then follow and subscribe and watch for future episodes. Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.